Write down our toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of this extravaganza. Our number remains the same. We're in Nashville, Tennessee. It's 800-941-SEAN. If you want to be a part of the program, we're in the studios of Newsradio 1510 WLAC, our great affiliate here in Nashville. You know, it's funny. It's sort of like negative ads. You ask people, well, I hate these negative ads. They're terrible. It's disgraceful. We could do so much better than all of this. And you know what the reality is? Negative advertising works. You know, going after candidates works, period. And I know some people probably wish that this was a little more high-minded, highbrow of a debate last night. I warned you it was not going to be that way. You had last night a raucous debate, a rip-roaring debate, just like I predicted you would have. And I say this, I don't think we're any worse off because of it. What's at stake in this country is worth a fight. It is worth fighting over. And you got to remember that the eventual nominee for the Republican Party is going to be dealing with the Clintons, the most ruthless political machine in the history of mankind. Look at what Hillary's doing with the Jim Crow comments this week. And her overtly playing the race card the way she is this week.
In Texas and in state after state, they're doing everything they can to stop black people, Latinos, poor people, young people, people with disabilities from voting. It's a blast from the Jim Crow past.
A blast from the Jim. They're trying to keep minorities from voting, black Americans from voting, Latinos from voting, people in wheelchairs from voting. I've been through all this all week. It's a great indication. If they're doing this now, Democrats to each other, they're only going to do the same thing to the eventual Republican nominee. I mean, maybe, understand why they call politics a blood sport here. And maybe we ought to send them into the arena or the debating halls wearing helmets and armor and protective gear. And maybe just let them go MMA style. I'm a huge fan of mixed martial arts. And you know what? It gets bloody and people's faces get puffy, and it's a brutal sport. It's a warrior sport. And if you want to be president of the United States of America, you better be prepared, because it is the toughest job in the world, period. You will make decisions about people living and about people dying. You will make decisions about homeland security. You will make decisions about how to deal with radical Islam, Iranian mullahs, enemies of America. You've got to be tough. You've got to be strong. You've got to have some guiding principles that will get you through these tough times. Why do you think presidents age so much in the course of 8 years? Take any picture of any president when the first day they get in office, 8 years later, and they look like a different person. Look at Barack Obama. Look at Bill Clinton. Look at George W. Bush. They all age. Why? Because the weight of the world is literally on their shoulders. And if you can't handle a debate among your fellow Republicans, how are you going to handle Hillary Clinton? Now, between the last debate in South Carolina and the one last night in Houston, I honestly don't think in my entire life I have seen debates this intense, this combative, this personal, this ad hominem in nature. Trump at one point turned to Rubio and said, this guy's a choke artist. Then he turned to Ted Cruz, this guy's a liar. I found myself at times laughing at all the attacks. Gloves were off, MMA, and it was battle. Now, I know some of you support different candidates, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to try and give you, encapsulate, if you will, what I think of the styles of everybody and who's going to come out and who's going to benefit. And I know some of you may not like what I have to say, but I'm just going to give you my best take on it. By the way, we're in Nashville tonight. We gave Donald Trump an hour on Monday night, and we're giving Senator Ted Cruz an hour here in Nashville tonight for the full hour with an audience. And then we're going to have, I think, the top three candidates on Monday. So it should be a lot of fun. I know we have Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. I don't know what's up with Marco Rubio's people. I'm only telling you this because they've been very difficult to book, both now on radio and TV. And I'm telling you this because it's the truth, number one. And number two, I'm trying to be fair to every candidate. And even when I interview them, I'm not interrupting them when they're attacking other candidates. I'm not the special pleader or defender of any one of them. I told you what I've taken on as my role in this campaign because I think it best serves all of you, and that is to give these guys as much time as I can. I can't think of a question, honestly, at this late stage that I have not asked a candidate that I've wanted to ask them. And, well, why didn't you ask them this question? Because I asked them 4 interviews ago. Why didn't you ask him this question? Because I asked him 5 times already that question. You know, the last time I interviewed Rubio was probably the only time I didn't ask him about comprehensive immigration reform. I got an onslaught of emails. Why didn't you ask him? I'm literally, what do you want me to repeat the same interviews? I don't need to book them again. I can just replay the old interviews. So in this process, you're, as a host, I got to tell you, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't a little bit, because I understand people's lives do not totally revolve around my show, but having had these candidates on so often on radio and TV that you would think at some point people would know that we've asked the questions that they most want answered. As I said, I don't think I've seen anything like this in modern presidential politics, and I'm not unhappy about it. And I know some people might be, but I'm just thinking long term here. And I'm thinking the fact that it's a blood sport in a primary is kind of going to be a big blood sport and a bigger brawl and a more raucous brawl and debate when it comes to the general election. There's a lot at stake here. Just to give you some context, at least these candidates aren't saying, all right, let's go outside and have a duel. We're talking about power. We're talking about the most prestigious position. You would be the leader of the free world. It is what it is, and it's not going to change until we have a winner. And then at that point, some people are going to do what they said they would do, and that's rally behind who the eventual winner is. And then you're going to have other people pout and pick up their toys and go home. And I don't, for the life of me, I do not understand any of these people would be better than Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. Now, it was clear going in, I'll start with Marco Rubio, that he wanted to come into this debate with a very different strategy that he had in the previous 9 debates. Even before the debate, the Marco team was leaking to reporters that Rubio would focus his attacks on Ted Cruz, hoping it to eliminate Cruz so as to set up a one-on-one matchup with Trump. And I assume probably Ted Cruz wants to do the same. And I see that all week we've been reading about how the establishment, what are they going to do to stop Donald Trump and stop the insurgency year? Well, they only want to stop the insurgency because they don't have control over the 2 people that actually have won primaries and caucuses here, Trump winning 3 and Ted Cruz winning Iowa, and they can't stand either one of them. So Rubio, he came in locked and loaded, and it was Donald Trump that he seemed to have more in his sights. And Rubio unleashed his barrage of attacks on Trump, and Trump responded back. I didn't hear anything new. I just heard sort of a regurgitation of every other attack that we've heard about Trump in the past. So as to its effectiveness, I thought Trump actually, for the most part, kept his cool. I didn't see that he was really rattled. I saw, okay, all right, whatever. You're reading your talking points, fine. And then he'd go on to say all these politicians do is talk, and nothing gets done. And so they all had their moments here. They all had, some people thought that I talked to today that Trump was defensive and rattled. I didn't see that. Some people told me they thought that Trump was angry. I didn't see that either. I actually thought that he was enjoying himself. I don't think Trump minds a brawl and a fight. And frankly, I don't think Ted Cruz does either. He doesn't mind a brawl and a fight either. Now, there's no debate rules like maybe if you do it at Harvard like Ted Cruz has done in the past. But, Ted Cruz joined in, and it was literally Trump in the middle. And you got Rubio on one side and Ted Cruz on the other side. And Cruz was clearly, I think, surprised at Rubio's attacks on Trump. And he kind of stayed out of it for a while. Then he went after Trump, and then Trump went back at both of them. And there's been a lot of talk this morning about who the winner and loser is in all of this. The 2 snap polls online were Drudge and Time Magazine, and they both had Trump winning by a landslide. I think that is a great indicator that Trump is not going to lose. His supporters, I believe, at this point are just locked in. And I don't know if there's anything that's going to be said or done by any of the other candidates that's going to take away any Trump support at this particular point in time. Time will tell. I mean, Tuesday's a big day. We've got 11 states. We've got, I'll go through the poll numbers outside of Texas, and I think Minnesota was the other one. I think if you look at the poll numbers, Trump still has a significant lead. And there's been prediction after prediction, even before he got into the race, now after he's been in the race, that this is going to, that's the end of his candidacy now. Oh, he said that about immigrants. Oh, that's a disaster. Oh, he's taking on the Clintons personally. Oh, that's going to be a disaster. Oh, there's no way that he can win South Carolina. It's heavily evangelical. That's going to be a disaster. So far, nobody's been able to knock away the support. And I went through great detail yesterday what's really happening here. What's happening is what you're seeing is a revolt, a rebellion in the country. I wrote a good friend of mine last night that hates Donald Trump. And I wrote him, you're not getting what's going on here. Donald Trump was created and built by the Republican establishment, the Republican power base in Washington, D.C. In other words, they make promises, they break them. They make promises, they don't abide by them. They have become the Democratic Party light. They have no vision. They have laid out no specific agenda. They have shown an unwillingness, a cowardice even, a fecklessness, a lack of spine and conviction and backbone to fight for the people that they represent. So they've created this insurgency. And the reason Ted Cruz is second is because Ted Cruz, he's part of the group, but he's hated. Lindsey Graham was talking last night about murdering or killing Ted Cruz. John McCain, his buddy, referring to him as a wacko bird. I think his past debates have shown, it doesn't matter to Trump supporters whether he does well in these debates. It just does not matter. And so I'm not sure if this changes in any way, shape, matter, or form. I know earlier this morning that Trump got the endorsement of former New Jersey Governor CHRISTIE. How important endorsements are, I don't know. Tim Scott and Trey Gowdy and Nikki Haley supported Marco Rubio. Did that propel him a bit at the end in South Carolina? I think it was, 1,100 vote difference between him and Ted Cruz, virtually a tie. And I'll say that the bottom line is, is Marco Rubio now going to benefit from the establishment money support that is going to be flowing into his campaign? Well, it didn't really help Jeb Bush much. And Jeb Bush had a very conservative record as a governor in the state of Florida. The two issues that tripped him up in this election cycle. Remember, this is unlike any other time we have ever seen in our lives and may ever see again. You're watching history unfold. To me, the whole process is just fascinating because all the rules are broken. I keep using the term defying political, traditional, conventional political gravity. It all applies here. There's nothing that I would have said in past presidential election years that I am saying now. That is what an angry electorate does. That's how deeply flawed and failed and disappointed the American people are. They feel that they have been so disappointed that these politicians have failed them so badly that they just don't care anymore. And they're saying anything but you people. Anything but you people that have been doing this for all these years. Anything but the good old boy system. Please give us a political earthquake a day. Please. Pretty please with sugar on top. Because the anger is that palpable. And I got to be honest. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. When our country gives $150 billion to Iran and the mullahs of Iran to spin their centrifuges, I am outraged over this. ISIS, the Islamic State, is not Islamic, and a president who can't say radical Islamic terrorism, millions more in poverty on food stamps out of the labor force, a doubling of our national debt. This sucks. People are suffering because of these idiots. And I'm sick and tired of it, and clearly that's what everyone else is saying. 800-941-SEAN, our toll-free telephone number. Now, one of the reasons we're in Nashville, we gave it the hour to Trump on Monday. We're giving an hour to Ted Cruz tonight before an audience and much more. By the way, police in California just busted a massive, huge burglary ring. They had 29 gang members arrested. Now, these guys did some very frightening stuff. This is what they do. They go to jewelry stores. They'd follow the customers home, smash through their windows, steal not only the jewelry but all their valuables. And there's no telling who they could hurt in this process. But here's what would have happened if any of these people had Simply Safe Home Security, the only security I trust.
Hannity Headline, a bite-sized version of the show that you can take with you everywhere you go. To sign up today for Hannity Headlines, go to Hannity.com.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour. From the studios of Newsradio 1510 WLAC, we are in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. I had one of the greatest times of my life. Recently, I was at the Charlie Daniels 40th anniversary volunteer jam. We had a great time there. I had the great honor once of hosting the Grand Ole Opry, and I have in my studio in New York, I actually have bookends that are microphones at WSM, which is like one of the great legend radio stations of all time in terms of country music. It was a great honor in my life to be able to do that. So it's always great to be here. We have Ted Cruz. Well, what about my candidate? Well, we've invited everybody. Now, let me go back one Friday ago, and we had Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio for a half hour each on Hannity before their audiences. And then we had Trump Monday night for an hour before an audience. Marco Rubio, well, didn't get back to us this week. So that's their problem. That's not my problem. And then Ted Cruz agreed to do an hour. And we already have booked Monday Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. So I don't want to hear boo out of any of you that we haven't been fair to the candidates and all the candidates. And if you want to call me and whine about it, I just don't want to hear it. You can go whine somewhere else. Call some other radio show and whine. You know, I didn't get to my candidate. And for those of you, I'm going to tell you one other story here. You know, people are getting mad because I'm reading your emails, and you're a little frustrated because I say at the end of the process, some of you are going to pout, and you're going to whine, and you're going to cry, and your candidate didn't win, and you're going to pick up your little toys, and you're going to go home, and you're going to offer a half a vote for Hillary Clinton. And if you do that, you're an idiot, because that's the third term of Obama. And I have no patience for crybaby sore losers. You know, my kids play competitive sports. And by the way, it's an individual sport. They play tennis. And, you know, over the years, they've gotten their ass kicked some days. And, you know, they come off the court and they're upset. And I'm like, I don't care. Be a good sport. Shake the person's hand. Say, congratulations, and mean it. You know, maybe you do, congratulations, I still hate your guts. Which is kind of probably a natural feeling sometimes. But be a good sport. You be a good winner, you be a good loser. And so, anyway, well, there is one plus for, I think Donald Trump just got a huge endorsement, not just from Chris Christie today. Now that Sharpton is saying if Donald Trump is the nominee, I'm open to support anyone else. I'm also reserving my ticket to get out of here if he wins, only because he'd probably have me deported anyway. Oh, I think that's great. I think I am offering to pay a one-way ticket for Al Sharpton to the destination of his choice. One caveat, and that is that he cannot come back. I think that's fair. Do you think that's fair? I might even hire charter one of his private jets. Maybe we'll charter Trump's jet. I'll make a deal with Trump. I'll say, Mr. Trump, can I pay the hourly rate for your airplane so that we can fly Al Sharpton the hell out of here as quickly as possible? But he's promising never to come back. Maybe he has to renounce his citizenship, which under Obama we've had record numbers of people doing it because they don't want to be, they're getting burned to death. More on the Chris Christie VP slot. You know, some news outlets out there, ABC News for one of them, is saying, well, I'm proud to be here to endorse Donald Trump. Christie said at a campaign rally in Fort Worth, Texas, saying, I'm happy to be on the Trump team. Trump introduced him as a friend of mine for many years, did not dismiss the idea of having Christie as a potential running mate. He's got a lot of talent. He's been a spectacular governor. He's been a wonderful person, a loyal person. He's done a great job, and he totally destroyed Marco Rubio the other day. You notice with Trump, the battle never ends. It goes on, 24/7, 365. And that's what this campaign is going to be. It's not going to change. And for those of you that are unhappy, oh, this was so brutal last night. Too bad. Get used to it because it's going to be, tiddlywinks compared to a general election against the Clintons. Oh, by the way, I have news about Hillary Clinton today. Very important news. She now has offered a semi-apology for referring to African Americans as super predators. Remember, she was confronted by the Black Lives Matter movement and got confronted with all of this. And she said that she shouldn't have used the term super predator when discussing young people during a speech 2 decades ago in support of the Violent Crime Control Act. Looking back, I shouldn't have used the words, and I wouldn't use them today. Well, didn't she once call Robert KKK Byrd, the former Klansman, former leader in the U.S. Senate, my friend, my mentor? Wow, if any Republican had said that about any racist like him, well, they would have been demonized and probably put out to pasture. The Secret Service had to stop a woman as she was charging Bernie Sanders. An apparent attempt to hurt Bernie Sanders was halted by Secret Service. They interceded to block a woman who was rushing him during a speech. Maybe she was in love with the guy. Who knows? Maybe she's really feeling the burn. Maybe the burn was really burning. And maybe she got the... Oh, come on. This is one of the greatest songs of all time. Burn that mother down. One of the greatest songs of all time. All right, let me keep going here because we got a lot to get to. All right, we got a lot happening today. One thing that the media took note of was that Rubio and Cruz were shaking hands during the debate's commercial breaks last night. I think people are reading too much into that. And one question I have for Rubio supporters, where was Marco in the previous 9 debates in terms of going after Donald Trump? Many people assumed that he was running for VP and that he didn't want to alienate Trump in case Trump got the nomination. Let's see. Oh, Dennis Rodman has responded to being mentioned in the debate like we really care about Dennis Rodman. All right, let's get to our busy telephones. We're in Nashville, 800-941-SEAN. We go back to Vegas where we were for a big part of the week, and AM 710, K-Dawn, the 50,000-watt Clear Channel blowtorch of the West Coast, and Staz is standing by. Staz, how are you? Glad you called. Welcome to the program, sir.
Great, Sean. Thanks for having me on the call. I want to make a prediction.
Go.
I'm going to say inside of 2 weeks, Donald Trump's new partner is going to be on his ticket is going to be Mr. Kasich.
I wouldn't doubt that for a second. Look, right now, this race, and people are going to hate me for saying this, this race is Trump's to lose. Trump has won the last 3 contests. Trump is leading in 9 of the 11 Super Tuesday contests. Now, you gotta look at objective data. Yeah, sometimes polls are wrong, Hannity. We've seen that in the past. Okay. So far, the polls were wrong in Iowa, right in New Hampshire, right in South Carolina, and right in Nevada. So I'm assuming, let's say 75% of the polls are correct. Trump is going on a path to win 9 of 11 states. Now, if Marco Rubio doesn't win a state on Super Tuesday, that means he will have won no states. And let me assume for a minute, Ted Cruz I think he's probably going to win Texas. It may be closer than he likes. You have 3 polls out there. You maybe pick the middle one. That it's tied. One has Cruz plus 15, another has Cruz plus 8. All right, so look at the polls. We'll take the number 8. It's pretty hard for any candidate at this point to close a gap. Today's Friday. Super Tuesday is Tuesday. So it's not a long period of time. We have shown in past debates that they don't really impact Donald Trump's support. If you look at the online polling last night, which I keep referring to, only because it shows that Trump supporters are locked in. They're not going anywhere. And the battle seems to be for second place in a lot of these contests. Now, Rubio has not won. You have to win. You have to be able to show you can win a state. And unlike Ted Cruz, who's winning and up in his state in the polls, Marco Rubio's down 20 points in the latest poll in Florida. And he's down to Donald Trump. Now, as of the 15th, when we have Ohio and Florida, those are winner-take-all states. So if Trump has the Super Tuesday that he has, and he can sneak away and take Florida from Rubio, and he's up 5 points in a poll against John Kasich in Ohio, and I thought Kasich had a really good debate last night. And he took a very different style than everybody else. I think that's probably a good position, Stas. Appreciate it. Let's go to Joe in Pennsylvania. Joe, how are you? Glad you called. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Sean. How are you today?
I'm good, sir. What's going on?
Good. I loved the debate last night.
I love rip-roaring. I love a good fight. I'm an MMA guy. I just love fights. I can't help it.
I think both Cruz and Rubio should combine, either make one running for president, the other one for VP, and that will probably make the difference in both of those candidates.
Don't you think, though, at this point, Rubio and Cruz kind of hate each other? Let's be honest. I don't think there's any love there.
I don't think there's any love among them, but the voting public will determine that. Combine their forces, they should be able to beat Trump, and they got to do it now before Super Tuesday.
I don't think it's going to happen, and I'll tell you why.
Either, but
let me give you the two arguments. Cruz is saying, "I won Iowa. I'm going to win my home state." Marco Rubio hasn't won a state, and Rubio's going to say, "Yeah, but I edged you out in South Carolina and Nevada. Why should I leave? You leave. You leave. No, you leave. You leave. You leave." And meanwhile, Trump is skating all the way to victory.
But that's the whole point. They have to combine forces to beat Trump. I don't trust Trump.
Understood. Then don't vote for him. I'm not telling anybody on this program. I'm very appreciative of the fact that this audience, and this is why I think I have played a valuable role to you, my listening audience. I bring the candidates on. I interview them. I can't think of any question at this point that I wish that I asked any of them that I haven't asked. And you get to decide. And I have faith in you, the people of this country, that you'll make the right decision. I really do. And I'm going to support who the winner is. Appreciate the call. 800-941-SEAN. Melbourne, Florida. We have Scott standing by. Scott, welcome to Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee. What's going on?
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you taking my call.
Yes,
sir. I have a question for you. So I know polls don't really mean a whole lot. And, when it comes to asking people if they view Trump favorably, lots of them say no, and I'm one of them. But I cringe at the thought of Hillary Clinton as president. So I know personally I'm not going to vote for him in the primary, but I will stand behind him for sure in the general election. So do you think that type of poll could just be thrown out, and that hopefully you can tell me I'm not alone in feeling this way?
Well, there's two polls that show every candidate that came out in the last 3 weeks, two of them that show every Republican GOP candidate beating Hillary Clinton. If you're asking me specifically about Trump versus Hillary, I think he will tear her apart. And I think what we have seen about Trump going after Jeb and Trump going after Rubio and Trump going after Carson and Trump going after everybody else, I think it'll be kiddies play when it comes to the Clintons. It'll be he will do things and say things that no other candidate would ever dare say, and I think the country will love it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that point. I'm glad you said that. I haven't heard anybody say that yet. And I agree with you on that.
All right, appreciate the call. Thank you. Donovan is in Florida. Donovan, hi, how are you? Welcome to Music City and Nashville, Tennessee.
For taking my call. And I just got a couple of concerns. And last night, watching the debate, I noticed, Donald Trump kind of is very reactive. Every time somebody says anything negative, he points the finger when people say something negative about him. But he has absolutely, in my opinion, his skin is so thin. He doesn't have tough skin. And, he reminds me of a rich, spoiled brat who, anytime that you have to fight for anything in life in diversity or any type of resiliency, you got to kind of fight through tough times. And I'm afraid that he hasn't done that. He's born with a golden spoon in his mouth, and it's like a brat, you know, and it's kind of discerning because, you know, I was a Trump supporter, but now, to be honest, after watching last night's debate, I love Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio stood there. He attacked Donald Trump for what he is, which is a spoiled brat. You know, he's a commander.
I didn't take it that way. I actually thought Trump showed an ability last night to take a lot of punches. I would say there were a few body blows, but I don't think that anything that's going to take Trump supporters away from him. And I actually thought that he was better. I didn't see him angry last night. You know, he's somewhat dismissive, and he fought back and gave his views. And, you know, all the attacks I had kind of heard before. So they weren't new to me, but they certainly went at him hard. And I actually thought he handled it pretty well. I mean, he was between two really good debaters. I mean, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are great at what they do. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN. We got Jamie Dupree coming up. We'll check in also with Congressman Louis Gohmert. We have a Trump supporter, a Cruz supporter, and a Rubio supporter debating later. And the great one, Mark Levin, is going to tell us about his Levin TV adventure, which we're really excited to hear about.
This is the Sean Hannity Show podcast.
We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
And new people will not be able to apply. In fact, I don't even think we should be taking new enrollees in the program now. That is how the program ends and how you wind it down, is you allow the people who are on it. When the program expires, they cannot renew it, and it goes away. But I will cancel the executive order as soon as I step foot into the Oval Office.
I have to say, he lied this time. He lied. 100%. 100%.
You lied about the Polish workers.
Yeah.
You lied to the students of Trump University.
38 years ago.
Oh, he lied 38 years ago. All right, I guess there's a statute of limitation on lies.
Jamie Dupree comes right at you from the Hill in D.C. on the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, he's the most connected man in Washington, D.C., and, of course, he's here with us, the one and only Jamie Dupree. We're in Nashville today. We have Senator Ted Cruz for the hour tonight. That, of course, from last night's rip-roaring, raucous debate. Was that not everything we said it would be and more?
Yeah, it certainly was, Sean. I'm here in Dallas getting ready to leave town after we've had some crazy things going on today as well. But, yeah, last night was really something. I think I expected that Rubio would come out swinging. I didn't really expect that we would see almost what was a joint Rubio-Cruz operation against Trump last night. Certainly, I think just in the sort of macro sense, Rubio did what he wanted to do. Probably, you know, a lot of people felt like he was the quote-unquote winner of the debate with Cruz behind him. But at the same time, I'm not sure that any of this really damaged Donald Trump long-term, though it did bring up something that you and I discussed yesterday, and that was this issue of when you get into these smaller groups in the debate and you can dig down further into the issues, would Trump be able to sink or swim? And what was interesting yesterday was both Cruz and Rubio went after him to try to draw him out on details on the Obama health law and other things. And there was that one little segment where Trump repeated himself a few times. Rubio made light of that and referring to his own problems with Christie. And I look for that to continue. Rubio today, I caught him in Dallas in a rally downtown, outdoor rally. He had a good crowd. I mean, nothing like a Trump crowd, but a good crowd for Rubio.
How many people about?
Trump I'd say 1,200, 1,300 maybe. It was outdoor. Yeah. It was pretty good for him.
Well, we have a packed house Trump tonight of like 1,000 people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He went after Trump repeatedly, calling him a con artist and more. So I don't look for this to be turned down at any point in time. But again, I'll stress, while I say that it clearly gave a boost to Rubio and his supporters, I don't think I'm ready to take the next step to say that it's going to take a chunk out of Donald Trump at this point in time.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, and look, it was entertaining. I don't mind a fierce debate like this. But the reality is we only can go by what we see and what the poll numbers are. And if you look at, for example, and I know they're not scientific, but Time Magazine and Matt Drudge have their polls up, and he's scoring better than he did even in previous debates after that debate because he was being hit from both sides. and, Trump supporters are so strong. Are they going to switch? I don't see it.
No, I don't see a lot of them switching. I mean, the biggest story that I found this week was I interviewed this couple at a Cruz rally who were mad at Trump. They were Trump supporters, and they decided to switch to Cruz. But, I mean, it's just little stuff like that. There does not seem to me, at least, to be any big movement away from Trump. Though, remember, in South Carolina, his numbers did tick down slightly after that last debate. Again, I think the biggest thing might be for Rubio, can he help with this debate to motivate people to come to him at the last minute? But then again, he's been winning those kind of battles and getting a lot of the converts right at the end in both Nevada and South Carolina. And the problem is he was so far behind Donald Trump that it only really pushed him up into the number 2 slot and didn't really threaten Trump at all. But on the other hand, I do think that it raises an interesting issue that you look at it and say to Rubio and his people, well, where was this in the last couple of debates? Because I do think that Rubio, A, got under Trump's skin, B, he flustered him, and C, I think he also provided a roadmap for how to go after Trump in the future, and that is you just pester and badger and get in his way and try to do what he does to you. And he didn't. I didn't think that Trump had that many effective lines. Now, maybe he'll be more ready in the next debate, but Rubio seemed to catch him a little off guard a few times in that debate.
Yeah, and there was a lot of commentary after the debate. Where was this in the first 9 debates? In other words, that there was a feeling among many that he was running for VP. And now people are saying, all right, well, now that he's got the establishment support and supposedly he's getting all this money that was going to Jeb Bush, that now maybe he's been told, no, you can actually win this thing. But here's the question. I'm looking at the polls in every Super Tuesday state, and to Ted Cruz's credit, all right, he's won Iowa. Ted Cruz is up in, if you look at the aggregate polls, he's up in Texas, his home state. Marco Rubio's down 20 points in his home state, and that, of course, comes after Super Tuesday on March 15th. So what state will Marco win?
Yeah, I don't see anything on the schedule next Tuesday that would be something that he would win. But the bigger part, of course, they'll argue is the delegate, accrual and getting those, which will not be a clean sweep for anybody next Tuesday. But your point is well taken because he hasn't won anything. Cruz here in Texas, I get the sense that, it's obvious he really, really wants to win here. And for him, I do believe it is do or die. But we'll have to see, so for some of these Super Tuesday states, I would say this, Sean, a lot of people I bet were just sort of tuning in for the first time. We tend to get so caught up in it. I don't think you realize how many people sort of stay on the sidelines and wait to make their decision until just before their primary. So you never know how something like this might shake out. But again, I would say even if it gives Rubio a boost, I'm not sure that it's really a game changer or anything like that. But certainly from his stump speech today here in Dallas, I don't see him backing off the attacks on Trump, and Cruz has certainly been after him as well. So Trump, I think has been put on notice that it will get a little more rough and tumble as we move through not only the March 1st, but the March 5th, the March 8th, and then the March 15th primaries. And I think by the 15th, it'll all sort itself out. The voters will get this, the last say on this, and that'll be the best part. We'll have a much better idea where we stand next week on Wednesday.
So my reading of the polls is you've got Trump up in 9 of the 11 states and Ted Cruz winning Texas. Again, at some point, now we're talking about 11, 15 states, then heading into March 15th. You have to win some states at some point. A second and third place finish might look good and might keep you in the race for a period of time, but there does come a point where you need to win states.
Sure, and the delegate numbers I think will be very important because if there's any way for anybody to spin any of those on the Rubio side, they will. I was looking at it yesterday. I don't see much of a chance for either Ben Carson or Governor Kasich to win many delegates on Super Tuesday. Really, I think it comes down to basically only Massachusetts, Vermont, and Virginia, which are fairly proportional with very low thresholds or even no thresholds. But some of the other states are up to 15 and 20%, and I just don't see Kasich or Carson doing that well there. Kasich was very upbeat after the debate last night. He still says he's going to hang on until the things turn north. Michigan on the 8th would be one of his big focuses. And obviously he keeps sort of jabbing at Rubio, saying it's time for Rubio to get out. I think there'll be a lot more heat on Kasich next week, though, if he doesn't really get on the board very much on Super Tuesday. And certainly the delegate count will be very important. Again, let me stress, even though I think that the Rubio people were clearly energized today by their candidate's debate performance last night, you were absolutely correct. You got to start putting some things on the scoreboard. That's why I pretty much think by March the 15th, we'll know whether we're going to go on well into April or whether we're going to wrap things up that night.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting here. But again, so far, all the predictions that Donald Trump goes down have not come true. I didn't feel he got rattled last night. I thought in the last debate, I thought he was a little angrier. Did you feel the same way? And I thought last night, he just was kind of like shrugging it off.
I thought he got flustered last night, to tell you the truth. I really do think he did, because it just didn't seem to be his snappy kind of rejoinders, that maybe he just wasn't sort of ready for the attacks that Rubio was coming up with. But again, I don't think it harmed him in any great way. He was definitely not on the offensive in this debate like he was in the last one, where he went after Ted Cruz repeatedly. He just didn't seem to have that same juice that he had in South Carolina. But again, I'm not sure that there was any grand damage done, but it does point out again, for example, the issue of depth and issues on the Obama health law. Both Rubio and Cruz went after him for the only thing he came up with to talk about how he would change was the issue of allowing insurance to be sold across and over state lines. And that's when the little repetition thing came up. And I know it's only a little thing, but it's one of those little issues and issues of substance that I would look for Rubio and Cruz to emphasize again on the stump, and next Thursday again in the next debate as well.
Let's talk about the Democratic side. You saw Hillary confronted by the Black Lives Matter movement about super predator comments that she made back in 1996. There's a New York Observer piece that I was reminded of by a friend today, where she actually called Robert Byrd, the former Klansman, my friend and my mentor. Bill Clinton's, quote, mentor was J. William Fulbright, a known segregationist. There seems to be a very concerted effort to stop Hillary from garnering the black American vote that she is courting and using the race card when she invoked Jim Crow the other day and started listing they don't want people to vote. So it seems like the race card's being played very big here.
I would say that probably by next Tuesday we're going to be more disposed to talk about her being the nominee of the Democratic Party, maybe even than Donald Trump being the nominee of the Republican Party. She's heavily favored in South Carolina. She's heavily favored in Georgia and a number of other states. I mean, there were 3 polls in Texas yesterday that I think had her up 26 or 29, 36, and 40 points. These are margins that you get in homecoming football games for the University of Georgia, the University of Texas, or something like that. And it's a reminder that Bernie Sanders can certainly draw a big crowd in a state like Texas or Oklahoma or South Carolina, but then following through on that and winning, that may be a bridge too far for him. We'll have to see what happens next week. But I think that just as Donald Trump is favored in a number of states for the Republicans on Super Tuesday, Sean, Hillary Clinton's just as strong as the favorite for the Democrats as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, so in Georgia, you got 76 delegates. Trump has a significant lead in Georgia. Ted Cruz has a lead over Donald Trump, but Donald Trump still has 27%. If Ted Cruz doesn't get over 50%, it's proportional distribution in Texas. Massachusetts, 42 delegates. Trump runs away with that. Seems to be a fight over Minnesota. Minnesota is the second state that Donald Trump is not winning. But in Oklahoma, Trump is up by not double digits, but up by about 8-9 points. He is up in Alabama by 20 points. He's up.
What are the numbers in Oklahoma there? Read me the numbers in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, you've got Trump 30, Ted Cruz, I don't have my glasses on, 23, Rubio 21. Close.
So if you had that happen, in Oklahoma's congressional districts, those numbers there, each of them would get, of the 3 delegates in each congressional district, because of the rules in Oklahoma, Rubio, Cruz, and Trump would all get 1 of those delegates. That's the oddity of some of the rules. That it would not, even though Trump would win in those congressional districts, he would not have the advantage unless one of them was not over 15% in the threshold. So that's what I'm saying is that, yes, there will be some wins, but there's also some real weird rules along the way that will limit his delegate haul next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if you look at all these numbers, it's pretty amazing. But obviously there's going to be a big push here. I don't think it's going to be over Super Tuesday. I don't think you're going to see either Rubio or Ted Cruz leave. Certainly, I don't believe John Kasich is going to get out. I don't think the pitch that is made by the establishment is working. And Ben Carson, I think he's going to his own tune here. He'll stay in as long as he feels like his message is getting out. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's possible he may get out, but Kasich obviously is going to resist it. Though again, if he does not have a very good showing on Super Tuesday, I think the calls for him to get out will increase. But yes, I think again, Cruz, if he wins in Texas, stays in. If he does not win, then that might be a different issue. Rubio, no matter what happens on Super Tuesday, I think is sticking around until at least March the 15th in his home state of Florida. Whether or not that there's anything available at that point in time or any road forward, that's a whole different question. But I don't see him getting out before that.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. All right, last question. So tell us about your travel schedule so we can get a good sense of where you're going to be and what states you're going to be following.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to run into you. I might be down in Valdosta, Georgia on Monday night, so maybe I'll run into you there for Trump at that rally.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Valdosta on Monday.
Yeah, I headed up here to Dallas today. I never would have predicted that when I got here that I'd be covering CHRISTIE endorsing Donald Trump. That was not anything that I figured was on my travel plans today. I'm going to go home, take the kids to some of their weekend stuff, and then Sunday fly down to Georgia and either find my way to Alabama or Tennessee and then back into Georgia on Monday and Tuesday as well. So maybe we'll run into you along the way, Sean.
All right, Jamie Dupree, if we do, dinner is on me. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number. My friend, the great one, Mark Levin, is going to check in with us. When we get back, Congressman Louis Gohmert will join us. Then we have Michael Cohen representing Donald Trump. Victoria Coates is going to join us, and Brian Morgenstern representing all the top candidates, Cruz, Trump, and Marco Rubio. So we'll have that debate and much, much more. And your calls, 800-941-SEAN.
Hannity Headline, a bite-sized version of the show that you can take with you everywhere you go. To sign up today for Hannity Headlines, go to Hannity.com. The new Sean Hannity Show, talking about what's right for America, with a renewed commitment to keep you up to date on the breaking news stories.
What I'm saying, though, is that Ted is really the most honest guy in the race, and I think that's eventually going to become very clear, and I think people will come around. Ted should do extremely well in Texas. Why? Because they know him in Texas, and they know the kind of lies that have been told about him lying. So anyway, it's going to get interesting from here.
All right, that's our good friend, even a fill-in on this radio program, Louis Gohmert of Texas. And for whatever reason, I would assume the establishment wants to take Louis Gohmert out of his seat. He is a strong voice for conservative values. And when is this? I guess you got two Republicans are now challenging you. You're in your 12th year as a congressman from East Texas, and you got a primary challenge. When is that coming up?
Well, early voting is going on, and now today is the last day for early voting, and our election is Tuesday when we have the presidential primary. But it was really not a big surprise. Those of us that led the charge, and nobody more than me, wanting to get a new speaker, as you know, we've talked about it many times on the air. But yeah, we were let know that we should expect an opponent. And, you know, it's been amazing. Tim Huelskamp, me, Scott Garrett, a number of people that just stand up guys say, look, we just need somebody that's going to be truthful as speaker. We've got self-funders, you know, so the establishment doesn't even have to worry about getting the money. But, boy, I tell you, Sean, it was a real lesson to me. You know, I've represented a majority, big majority of my district's views on most everything, and I wasn't really worried about keeping $1 million bank account. And what I've learned is if you don't have a substantial amount in your campaign account, that encourage self-funders to jump in because they can put more in. So I'm at a place I'm learning my lesson, but I have got to be raising money to discourage these kind of establishment self-funders.
All right, so there's voting going on now. When is the primary vote again?
It's on Tuesday, March the 1st,
Yeah.
and
Well,
people
by
can
the way,
go to my site. I'm going to sound like Ted Cruz now. Go to gohmert.com, gohmert.com, GOHMERT.com. And, you know, last time I was substituting for you, and nobody can fill your shoes, but as I said on the air, I can't fill his shoes, but I'm filling his seat today. But I would not have even mentioned my website if Lauren hadn't held up a piece of paper at the end of the third hour. Oh, yeah, and by the way, my website, because I hadn't even mentioned it the whole 3 hours. So I'm going to be doing better about, look, I need help. Everybody that's conservative needs help, but we got to stand together.
You know, it really frustrates me how poorly you have been been treated. Now, a couple of years before Boehner, you know, was kind of pushed out, I had called on this program. I thought it was time for him to go. And you know what? You were one of the few people that had my back at that moment. And, you know, talking to you and others, you told the story about how poorly Boehner treated you. Tell that story again. And the reason I say this is because all you're asking is that Republicans keep their promises. And that's what's frustrating to me. You're one of the few guys there that says, use the power of the purse. We have the constitutional authority, the power of the purse. Use it. You know, you're one of the few guys that stands on, you know, tries to accomplish what you promise you're going to accomplish.
But you nailed it, Sean. All we've been advocating is, look, we just want leaders that will help us keep our promises instead of constantly manipulating. I mean, it's really Machiavellian. Oh, this is the way we're going to do, and then at the end, oh, sorry, guys, this is the best we can do. It was just really Machiavellian. People being led away from keeping their promises. We just wanted somebody who would keep their promises. And, yes, his affectionate term for me when nobody else was around was, and I'll paraphrase, but hello, excrement head. But anyway, it was amazing, but a lot of people around here weren't bothered by that kind of comments and that kind of treatment. But you nailed it. The bottom line, we just wanted leaders who would help us keep our promise, and we weren't getting that. And so, and I can also tell you that nothing and nobody is more frustrated than when you're in a fight in Congress, like against amnesty or anything else, and you got people in the trench with you. If you lose somebody in the trench that goes over to the other side, I mean, that's devastating. So, you know, we've stuck together. We've been fighting, and now a lot of those of us that were in the trenches fighting for a speaker that would help us keep our promise instead of force us to break them, you know, we're paying a price now. But that also meant, I had a Codell I was leading back a few years ago, and I was going to lead to Jerusalem, and we had a conference with Netanyahu and another number of leaders, and we're going to go over and meet with our friend in Jordan, King Abdullah, just a great friend of the wants to be a great friend. This administration doesn't really help him. But anyway, it was a great Codell. It was going to be good for America. It was going to help shore up relations that Obama had strained. But because I had opposed Boehner on a debt ceiling bill, his chief called mine and said, tell your congressman that the speaker has canceled that trip for the congressman and those going with him. I mean, it was a bipartisan trip. It was going to be great for shoring up relations, but that was the kind of stuff that went on constantly. And no, I knew I would never be a committee chairman. And I tell you, Rob Bishop from Utah was really incredibly brave when he made me the chairman of the Oversight Committee for Natural Resources against the Speaker's will. So I'll always be grateful for Rob for his courage.
Yeah. Well, Congressman, you have been a stalwart. You have been a fighter. You have put it all on the line, and you're one of the few guys that are not a problem in D.C., and I wish I lived in East Texas so I could pull the lever for you.
Sean, I keep telling you, we can remedy that for future elections.
How's that? Oh, you're going to move me down to your... Well, yes, I can't. I'm under contract. Listen,
I know.
The governor of my state...
About it. I know. You and I have talked about it. And
I am. Do you understand? I am like a political orphan. There's nobody in New York, nobody that will even take my calls here anymore. Not even Peter King. He's gone off the deep end. And I used to get along great with Peter. I don't know what's happened to him. And but I have nobody to call. Nobody. I am a political orphan, and the governor of New York wants me to leave, wants me out. I'm not a New Yorker in his minds because I'm pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, and I believe in a traditional definition of marriage.
I'm telling you.
There's no place for me, he said.
Texas, too. you are beloved in East Texas. And so, anyway, I know you're under contract for a number of years, but what you remember, you came to my hometown of Tyler sometime back, and people packed the Oil Palace. They just loved you. I hope you felt the love when you were in Tyler.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Louis, we wish you the best. We think the world of you, and we really appreciate you being with us. 800-941-SEAN. That takes place Tuesday. Wow. You know, I think that you got establishment people that are throwing money at him to try and get him out of office because, he's a conservative, and he actually says things that he believes and sticks up for him. All right, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. Dana is in California. Dana, how are you? Welcome to Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the Sean Hannity Show. What's going on?
So thankful to talk to you. I've been listening to you a lot lately, and I agree with you when you're saying, if the people that support Trump, don't want to, or the people that don't support Trump are going to, when it comes time to vote, aren't going to vote for him because he is going to be our nominee. I hope by the time it comes to the time that we have to vote, that they can make that decision. I mean, are you going to hand this country over to the Clintons or to a socialist, or are you, if you don't vote, I mean, essentially that's what you're going to be doing. And I just hope that they don't, just like you always say, take their toys and, go home and don't want to play anymore, because I just think that would be a shame to do that to this country.
Well, I know that there are people that are going to do that, and I can see it coming. And I know there are establishment people that will work behind the scenes. They hate Trump. They hate Cruz. Their candidate's not winning. And instead of just going out there and fighting really hard, they want to complain and whine and moan and groan. And, it's a little frustrating to me because, one of the things I try to teach my kids is to be a good sport. Both my kids are athletes, and they play individual sports, and they don't always win. And when you lose, you got to be a gracious loser. They mostly are, but occasionally they've had their moments, and they've had to learn life lessons. And, it's easy when you win, but it's you got to be gracious in losing.
The other thing I'm hearing a lot when like in the media now, especially when they talk about, and I mean, I haven't made my decision yet. I mean, I really like Ted Cruz, and I was really excited about John Kasich, and his debate performance I haven't been as excited about. But now when they talk, what I'm hearing is like when they talk about the Trump supporters, those are the angry people. And it seems like we're starting
by the way,
to...
I'm angry.
I
am angry at the direction of my country.
You say, me too, but I'm not. But like I think now when they talk about, because we're starting to divide everybody up, like the Trump supporters, the Cruz people, even like through the Iowa caucuses, they were. I heard a guy on the radio on someone else's talk show. He tried to get into one of the Trump events, and he's like, well, as I was waiting, the people that wanted to go see Trump, well, they were angry and they were, talking this way. But boy, when I went over to the Cruz people to go see one of his events, they were just, so nice, and they were like this. And it's like now we're like dividing up the people who we're starting to make a division that way too. And I think like the people that are supporting Trump they're getting like a negative label. So I think it's like going one step further. And so when it comes time to when that person's nominated is our candidate, I agree with you. We have to back who it is, because to hand this country over to a socialist, I mean, is just, I can't even believe that could happen in this country.
Well, it's already happened now, and this would be a continuation of what we have.
So untouchable with everything they do, and every time I mean, when you have these little things on Hillary of her little speeches, it's just like nails on a chalkboard to me. But she, talks down to us. She, this little speech she just gave in Texas about the Republicans trying to hinder the voting of the poor and the Latinos and the blacks. And I mean, those are the people that have done so poorly under this administration.
But here's the sad part of what you're saying, Dana, and this is a really important point you're making, is that in spite of the appeal every election cycle to the different demographic groups, black Americans, Hispanic Americans, women, Republicans are racist, Republicans hate Latinos, Republicans hate black Americans, Republicans hate women, Republicans want to throw Granny over the cliff, they want to poison the air and water. These lies get repeated every election cycle. They get people all worked up and all angry, and they've demonized Republicans. None of these things are true, but they repeat the lie, and they energize their base. And then when they get in office, we have more minorities in poverty, more minorities out of work and out of the labor force, more minorities on food stamps and welfare and family assistance than ever before. And on top of that, we have burdened all of our children with unimaginable debt. But people will believe the lie. And if I can do one thing this election cycle, is I can shatter that false narrative and that illusion and get people to see the truth that they're not better off under these policies. It is a mission of mine to let people know they are being manipulated every election cycle and they are being lied to. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
And they are. And I mean, and she, like I said, but I think this works because I think those people that they appeal to like that are so uninformed. And it's so attractive because they're always, promising these free handouts. And I think that's why Bernie Sanders is so appealing to the younger kids now, because they really don't know what socialism's about. And I have kids that are early 20s and a teenager and even one who's 11 who are aware of what is going on, and they come home from school and they're like, Mom, I don't understand. These kids talk this way. And
Dana, I just want to thank you because you're one of the many people that listen to this program that work so hard in becoming so knowledgeable about the state of affairs for this country, and I admire you so much for that, and thank you for your insight and your comments today. Appreciate it. Things are bad. Nobody wants to say it. Things are awful. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program.
Podcast.
I declare, I'm not going to pay for that wall. He should pay for it. He's got the money.
We will get the economic growth, and that is what this country needs. Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Period.
If he hadn't inherited $200 million, you know where Donald Trump would be right now? Selling watches in Manhattan.
I mean, first of all, this guy's a joke artist, and this guy's a liar. You have a combination.
This guy always goes.
You have a
he goes right for the outrageous.
Governor, can somebody attack me, please?
Okay, here, Wolf.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America. Coming up next, our final news roundup and information overload hour.
All right, news roundup, information overload hour. We are in Nashville, Tennessee today. News Radio 1510 WLAC, and it's the Sean Hannity Show. We continue our top story of the day, which, of course, was last night's raucous and rowdy Republican debate. Michael Cohen is back with us, Executive Vice President, Special Counsel to Donald Trump. Victoria Coates is the National Security Advisor to Senator Ted Cruz. And also with us is Brian Morgenstern, Republican strategist, Vice President of the Manhattan Republican Party and fundraiser for Senator Marco Rubio. Welcome all of you to the program.
Sean, how are you?
Thanks, Sean.
Michael, let's start with you. All right, so we're now just a couple of days from Super Tuesday, except for two states Donald Trump is in the lead on those Super Tuesdays. He's actually, one poll actually has him tied in Texas, another has him down 15, another has him down an 8. But between Texas and Minnesota, other than that, he's in the lead in every other state. He's won the last 3 contests. What do you expect on Super Tuesday?
I expect him to win those 2 states as well.
Okay. What did you think of last night's debate?
You know, it depends on who you're talking to. It's just amazing. Oh, Marco Rubio, he finally showed Donald Trump. I mean, Marco Rubio challenging Donald Trump is like Bambi fighting Godzilla, right? Even one of the CNN personalities last night commented how everything was incoming against Donald Trump. And while these 4 others and, you know, Marco trying to be a man, you know, Mr. Trump took every blow. He kept his composure. He stayed strong throughout the debate. He really looked, to me and to many people I spoke to, he looked extremely presidential. And I found that as Marco continued to talk, what it felt like is the stink of desperation, and it just seemed wrong. It was just everything he was saying, in my opinion, was against the will of the voters.
Your thoughts, Brian, considering Michael mentioned Marco?
Yeah, Michael, I don't know what debate you were watching, man. To me, it looked like Marco was picking him apart. I mean, his campaign is focused on illegal immigration, but he hired illegal immigrants. He says he's going to bring back jobs, but his own products are made overseas. He says he's for the little guy and against special interests, but the little guy is suing him for fraud right now because of Trump University. And all this was exposed last night, and it's pretty new information to voters because the other candidates had been laying off Trump for this whole campaign.
Well, wait, hang on, Brian. Hang on a second. It's really not new to voters. I mean, this is all stuff that's been vetted and come up before many times.
What's really sad here, Sean, what's really sad here is you think, Brian, that you and Marco, with your little secret meetings with your super PACs and your big donors before to try to take Mr. Trump down is really going to work. Let me tell you something, what's going on here, all right? What you're failing to really grasp is that the silent majority, the American people, they want Trump. They look at Marco Rubio and they see nothing. Why? Because he's done nothing. You want to talk about questionable use of funds in Florida, his foreclosure, his weird inside dealings with lobbyists and Norman Brayman, his weak financial history, his poor voting record, being part of the Gang of 8. You know, Donald Trump, out of all the people that are on that stage, is legitimately the only one who's ever hired a single person. So when you talk about whether it's Trump University, he's winning that case. The fact that they brought the case against him, he could have settled that years ago. But based upon principle, he refused to. And then you talk about his products made overseas. Donald Trump's a businessman. Well, let me tell you what he's going to do. He's going to repatriate trillions of dollars back to this country. He's going to make those companies put that money to work so that they're a creation of jobs. And he's not going to do what the administration has done, which is to destroy the American economy. Now, guys like Rubio and guys like Cruz, they're all like, well, you know, we're going to do this. They've been part of the system, which is broken. They are the broken system.
Michael,
they don't want
Donald
to call
Trump
themselves
has
establishment.
been
are
taking
the
advantage
establishment,
of the broken
and
system.
nobody wants them.
Dan, you're going to try to filibuster forever, just like your boss does. But look, he has not been held accountable yet until last night's debate when these candidates actually started to expose some of this stuff. He's been campaigning as the champion of the working class stiff, but he's been taking advantage of those guys for his entire career. And the candidates have been laying off Mr. Trump because they weren't taking him seriously early in this campaign. And last night was the time that they actually exposed him for what he is.
Can I interject here?
A series of
He's been taking advantage of the little guy. He's the guy that puts them to work. He's the guy that their families, right, send their children to college,
and lays them all off, and then runs away with their money.
They're part of the economy. What you're saying is sheer nonsense. All right, and I'll tell you, every time that whether it was Marco or Ted, every time that they thought that they had some genius pre-scripted robotic line, the next thing that they turn around is they rattle off the name of their website so people go to it, and then the first thing you see is donate.
Yeah, that's the first thing you see at DonaldJTrump.com as well, by the way. And he's raised millions of dollars off his hats, just like he's campaigning on making America great again and building a wall and the lines around the states. It's a series of gimmicks with nothing behind it, and that's what the voters saw last night.
Well, let me bring in, if I can, Victoria. But the bottom line is, people, including Republicans, have been talking about this for now decades, building a wall. They've been talking about a lot of these things, and nothing seems to get done. I think, the appeal, I think the reason that Ted has won Iowa, for example, or that he's won and that Donald Trump has won 3, is that they're 2 insurgent candidates that have taken on an establishment, both Republican and Democrat, that have failed the people of this country. Victoria, is that not true?
I couldn't agree with you more, Sean. And hello, Michael and Brian. It's good to make your acquaintance.
Hi, Victoria.
And I hate to disagree so early in our relationship, Michael, but it really, I think, saying that Senator Cruz is part of any system in Washington is borderline delusional. You had Lindsey Graham in front of a big crowd of people last night threaten to kill Ted Cruz. That's how much he is part of the Washington system, that you would have a fellow senator come out and say that. And before you go on and say, well, he doesn't get along with his fellow senators, to Sean's point about border security, 2 of the great Americans who were in that audience last night were Governor Perry and Governor Abbott. And Governor Abbott was Ted Cruz's boss for 5 years, and he dislikes him so much that he came out, endorsed him this week, cast a vote for him today, put a tweet up about it, and can't wait to campaign for us. So it's absolutely untrue that Ted Cruz can't get along with people, but it is very true that he can't get along with Washington. And I think that's actually an attribute that the American people are going to be very attracted to this election.
That he can't get along with people that are working on both sides of the aisle? That's
that he can't get along with the Washington insiders? Absolutely. I think that the American people are completely uninterested in the Washington insiders who are polling, and y'all love polls. They're polling at 9% approval. And you all want to go to Washington and get along with the people who are disliked by 91% of the American people? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Victoria. The problem that you have is they don't understand that there are 2 parties. And it's not supposed to be Republicans against the Democrats, right? Let's beat them over the head. That's not what it's supposed to be. You have to make deals. Donald Trump is a natural deal maker. Ted Cruz couldn't make a deal to save his skin, and Marco Rubio that has no idea what he's talking about at all. What you end up
I'll tell you
to
the
understand,
only deal that Ted Cruz
let me finish. What you have here is you have an individual that has the ability to reach across the aisle, to make deals that are beneficial to America, to make the country strong again, whether it's military, whether it's education, whether it's health care, right, whether it's the economy. There's only one guy who can create jobs, and it's Donald Trump, right? If Ted Cruz thought he could create one single job, right, people would be voting for him, but they don't. They don't vote for him.
Well, they do. They did in Iowa.
Yeah,
and on top of that, Michael, I mean, I'd just like to make a quick punch, Sean, if you don't mind. The one deal that Senator Cruz was very willing to make in the Senate was the deal to keep the Iranian ambassador off the streets of New York, where Mr. Trump walks every day, who was a known hostage taker in 1979. And guess who he partnered with? Chuck Schumer, to get that done, because we didn't want a terrorist on the streets of the United States. So saying that he can, what he did.
Chuck Schumer is a whole other story. There's the Gang of 8 again, all with Marco Rubio, right? So,
but you would agree you don't want an Iranian terrorist in Manhattan?
Yeah, I think so. And the problem is you don't want any terrorists running anywhere in the United States, and that's why it's so important to close the border. You need to ensure that your country has walls, it has borders, because as Mr. Trump will constantly say, a country without borders, quite frankly, isn't a country.
And, Michael, actually, I'll bring this around. So we started out yelling at each other, but this is an issue, securing the border, where all 3 of our candidates are on that same page, and the public is demanding it, and rightfully so. I just cannot believe that the next president, assuming it is a Republican, one of our guys, and I believe it will be, that border is going to be closed, because the public is holding our guys' feet to the fire, as they should, and they hear it loud and clear, and that'll be one of the first goals of the next president.
And who was the one who brought it to the forefront? Donald Trump.
Right, Michael. Yeah, because nobody talked about illegal immigration before Donald Trump started talking about it. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And the special interest doesn't want you to close the border. That's the problem. It's all about big business and special interests and these big donor pools that are stealing my child and my future grandchildren and everybody listening's children and grandchildren stealing their future. And it's enough, and that's why the American people are looking for someone like Donald Trump, who's a proven leader, who's a natural-born deal-maker, and is a guy who gets things done. End of story.
All right, let me jump in here. Let's talk a little bit about logistics and let's talk the horse race and other things that are going on here. Heading into Super Tuesday, you have Donald Trump with 3 wins. You have Ted Cruz that won Iowa. I guess the important question is, right now, Marco Rubio, I don't see him leading in any states, and he's down to Trump 20 points in Florida. At what point does Marco have to win a state for him to be a viable candidate, Brian?
So there are a number of states where he'll be competitive, and
I didn't ask if he's going to be competitive. What state is he going to win?
So there are a number of states, including where he's very popular, including Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, where he'll be competitive, and he'll get a large share of those proportional delegates heading into March 15th, and that will build some momentum heading into those winner-take-all states. So there are a number of states on the table, some of the ones I just mentioned, where we may see, once polls come out that bake in last night's debate performance, I think there will be a lot of changes. Keep in mind, Sean, in New Hampshire with the bad performance, think about how quickly things turned on a dime. But last night, where Marco really took it to Mr. Trump, that may have just as big an impact in the other direction.
Let me ask this question.
Hold on, wait, 1 second here. What you're saying is, do you realize that your entire campaign is fighting with Ted Cruz about who came in second versus third? It's like, you're looking for a participation award, right? State after state, Donald Trump is drawing the largest crowds by a multiple. And these crowds are translating into votes. And the other all these other candidates, if you combine all of their numbers in terms of delegate votes, all of them combined don't equal Donald Trump. So when you say, oh, well, he's going to be competitive, what's the difference? Nobody cares about being competitive. You got to win. That's the mindset of Donald Trump. See, you guys are like, oh, we're going to compete, we're going to try, we're going to do this, we're going to
Michael,
sit, we're
Marco
going to wait.
beat
By
Mr.
the
Trump
time
in
you
the
guys
debate
wake
last
up,
night. He
he's
smacked
gonna
him around
have
that
already been
stage
the nominee.
like crazy, and the polls are not reflecting that yet. So once that is baked into some poll numbers,
wait.
I think
The
we're going
polls
to see things
aren't
change.
reflective of the crowds? Look at, what is he, 87 delegate votes? How many?
Well, now you're just moving the goalposts. That's not what I said. I talked about last night's performance and how that is going to affect this race. I think
how many
delegate
votes do you have right now?
I'm sorry?
How many delegate votes do you have right now?
Oh, it's, what is it, in the teens. Cruz and Rubio are close. But, Michael, you're deflecting. Last night, Marco Rubio knocked your candidate around the stage, exposed him as a fraud who employs foreign workers, imports workers to his Florida resorts. He used illegal immigrants to build Trump Tower. All of these things.
Blah, blah, blah. See, here you go on
Marco
Rubio's stump speech. You guys are really great at it, right? Memorize the speech, turn around, and on any opportunity where
build a wall, lies around the states.
Throw out response.
We're going to win. We're leading in the polls.
Donald Trump,
anybody? Hang on. Let me be fair here. We only have 30 seconds left. Let me give it to Victoria.
Thank you, Sean. And I just would say to everyone in Texas that last night what happened was Senator Cruz displayed the record that he wants to run on to bring jobs back to America, to defend our nation, and all the reasons they've been supporting him. And so I think, unfortunately, for Michael and Brian, what you saw last night was a winner in Ted Cruz, who's going to come out, win Texas on Tuesday. We're going to have a big night, and we're going to move forward. So it's not about, for us, who's going to lose what. It's what we're going to win, and that's our plan for Tuesday.
All right, I want to thank you all for being with us. Michael Cohn, Victoria Coates, and Brian, thank you. 800-941-SEAN, our toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of this extravaganza. We check in with my buddy, the great one, Mark Levin, at the bottom of this half hour, as Mark is now making an endeavor into what he's calling Levin TV. We're going to find out what that's all about and talk a little politics, have some fun. 800-941-SEAN.
Hannity Headline, a bite-sized version of the show that you can take with you everywhere you go. To sign up today for Hannity Headlines, go to Hannity.com. Sean Hannity, always concerned for our country, always honoring our servicemen and servicewomen, and standing up for liberty every day.
Coming up on Levin TV, we will discuss President Obama's last State of Confusion address, high thoughts on radical Islam and the immigration dilemma facing our nation, the endless debate on gun control, a salute to our great veterans, and a sit-down interview with Senator Rick Santorum. All this and much more coming up next on Levin TV.
Liberty's voice, Levin TV.
There's nowhere on television is there a show that's 100% pro-American. Government-run, iron-fisted, Stalinist-like healthcare doesn't work. This State of the Union speech should have taken 3.5 seconds. The State of the Union sucks. The liberal media will not drive this program, and liberal issues will not drive this program. We will drive this program. What we are here is pro-American, unabashed patriots. We feel positive about our country. We feel positive about our principles. And each and every night, I'm going to come to you. I hope you'll join us in what is our new national town hall meeting here on television so we can discuss these issues, figure out how to get our country back, and move it forward.
All right, 24 now till the top of the hour. We are in Nashville, Tennessee. The studios of News Radio 1510 WLAC. Well, my buddy Mark Levin, the great one, made a huge announcement recently that he is setting up Levin TV. It's an online service. By the way, I'm already a full-time customer. No, I didn't ask for free service, even though he's my friend. He's the author of numerous #1 New York Times best-selling books, including the Liberty Amendments, calling for a convention of the states, which is something that I support fully and completely. He has more intellectual firepower, background, and experience than anybody else that I know, and he's just one of my closest friends. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for all that, Sean. How are you?
Before we get into the TV stuff, I got to tell a funny story. Are you up for this?
Sure.
What are you wearing? Thank me. No, it's not that. Every time I do a speech, like I was at Conservative Review, which you are now the editor-in-chief of, and I do you on the stage, and people just crack up when I do it, and I'm like, all right, I got to keep doing this. People enjoy, obviously, your spirit and your firepower.
Hold on now. The truth is, it's not that hard to do me, is it? No, it's not.
Well, I don't know many others that can.
3 hours a day.
Yeah, well, you can do you, of course, but for somebody else to do you, I don't know if it's as easy. I try Rush Limbaugh. I don't think it works too. Sean Hannity would be nothing without me.
You better work on that.
Yeah, I got to work on that. So here's a funny story. You just celebrated your 10th year in syndication. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I look at radio as a profession. I started in 1987, Mark, if you can believe it. I'm almost 30 years in radio now. My 20th year in the Fox News Channel. And I feel blessed beyond measure. And so there's a story about how you got into radio. And I want to tell people this story because you were
Tell them all about it. Go ahead. Seriously.
You were very reluctant. Is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement.
Okay. Now, you and I became friends. I don't even remember how, but once we became friends.
I bailed you out of jail.
Yeah, well, you bailed me out of jail. I was in jail for a month, and you came in and bailed me out. But I remember having to beg you to fill in for me. True story. And you said, well, I think I could do the other part. I don't know about that stupid intro and outro stuff that you keep talking about. I don't know about that.
Well, you know what? I want everybody to know they're called formatics, and I didn't know that.
Right.
And what happened was I said to Sean, look, I get all the stuff in between, but getting out and getting in on time and remembering my name while I'm in the middle of explaining, I can't. He said, all right, you come to my house. He sat me down. We had 5x7 cards. I think there were like 48 of them. And we wrote one at a time. Hi, I'm Mark Levin. I'll be right back. Because so you just grab the card.
Well, it was a little different than that. It says, hi, I'm Mark Levin. I'm filling in for Sean Hannity. Our toll-free telephone number is 1-800, blah, 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 blah. Because you always had the substance. You have the intellect for this. You have the passion for this. And I'm like, the formatics is simple in radio. Let me tell you how easy it is.
That's right. And you taught that to me. And the truth is, though, when I was a kid, I would listen to radio in Philadelphia. Yeah. And I would listen even to WOR and WABC and Bob Grant. And as you know, Bob Grant and I became fast friends.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bob literally paved a path. I mean, he took a lot of incoming, and so did Rush, in fairness to Rush.
Absolutely.
These guys made it easier for all of us, and we both admire them both. But anyway, so you started, and I remember then the next step was I had to talk you into doing a weekend show for free on WABC, my ex-wife, and so
I didn't mind it really, but
well, you were a little frustrated at the free part. I remember that.
But I decided, okay, I'm going to learn it on the biggest talk station in America.
Right.
And who the hell gets the chance to do that? And I learned it for 14 months, and then I retired, and then they called me back. I won't get into the details, and said, will you take up the 6 p.m. Eastern slot for a couple of months while we try and work things out? And a couple of months led to this.
Well, and then you did really well. You followed me, and we are a tag team on many
we
stations.
We had a killer row lineup, didn't we?
We really did, and we still do on many stations around the country. And I'm very honored that we're a part of it.
Amen.
And then, then you got into syndication. It became the fastest growing syndicated show. And you are, you're in the top 3-4 people. It's me, you, Rush, and Beck.
Yeah, and Sean, honestly, the 6 p.m. slot Eastern is a tough slot because there's a lot of things people
Very
can
tough.
do. There's sports and there's, people like what we call eat. Things like that. So nobody thought it would work in this slot, and obviously it did because I'm going to be on the air 9 more years.
Well, I heard
9 more years.
How funny was that you signed a lifelong contract? I read that, and I said...
I'll tell you what, it's not really lifelong, but 9 years in radio is lifelong. It was great. It was great. It was very easy.
Yeah, you know what? And I just extended my deal. I haven't announced it because I don't like these stupid press releases, but that's my own personal opinion. So I'm really, you were the one person, Mark, and I knew it, Phil Boyce knew it, others knew it, that you just had that it factor. And, it's funny because a lot of people in our business are really shallow and simple-minded, and I've never felt this is a zero-sum game, and I've always felt that your success and Rush's success and Glenn's success only benefits me, and it's a rising tide lifting all boats, and we all have very different styles. You have your unique style. I do a different show. Rush does a different show. Glenn does a different show, and so I'm proud to know you, and then there's other shallow, petty people in this business that we won't name.
Right.
And I feel very
blessed. I can name them on my show. We'll do it later, but go ahead.
No, you can name them all you want. I don't give a rip.
Right.
So now you're venturing into TV, and you and I had a lot of discussions about this, personal discussions. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, you know what, Sean? There are all kinds of new platforms out there. And this isn't to put down cable or satellite or the networks or so forth, but sometimes those sort of things just aren't for certain people, and it's not for me. And I wanted to do something differently. I wanted to do long-form interviews. I didn't want commercials. I wanted to do it in a way that, it's all substance, content control by what I want to do. And you know what I want to do. I like to talk about history and philosophy and economics as well as have, current events and politics and news and so forth. But it doesn't really fit into this 5-minute, 8-minute, 10-minute segment stuff. So we decided to do this about 18 months ago. We built a magnificent studio in secret over a 12-month period. We've been working on the content of this for 12 months. We're up and ready. We're excited. If people will go to levintv.com, just take a look at it, and people will be able to watch this after my live radio show at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. There'll be a new show every single weekday. They can go on their laptop or home computer, iPhone or iPad, Android phone or tablet, Amazon Fire tablet, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and that's just for starts. We will expand it over there, and people can watch it whenever they want, a brand-new program starting at 9 p.m., and I will be able to get into issues and things that that my audience and maybe other audiences are very, very interested in without,
Can I ask some format questions? For example,
I will be wearing clothes, but go ahead.
Well, thank me for sharing that. That would be a deal breaker for me. No, I know you're getting in shape, but I don't think you're in that great shape.
No, me neither.
And I'm glad you're not going to be wearing a thong or a bikini either. That's good news.
You're taking this too far. You killed the joke. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. So the next question is, are you going to have guests? Is this going to be you for an hour? Is this going to be, I know two sides of you. We know the combative side. Get off my phone, you big dope. Or we have the constitutional expert, the professorial, if you will, Mark Levin, the guy that knows the Constitution better than anybody that I know. Or are we going to see a mixture of both?
You're going to see a mixture. Look, I'm not taking calls. At the end of the program, we decided we will have a social media segment where we have people send their videos and write in and so forth, but this isn't a scripted thing. I can tell you that we will have guests if guests make sense. There'll be one guest if I have a guest, and I'll sit down with that guest for 20 or 30 minutes, and I don't want only politicians, that's for sure. So it might be like a Nobel laureate in economics or just a fascinating expert on American history, a particular subject that's going on, and we'll sit down and we'll talk. I'm not Bill Buckley, but I used to love what Buckley did. So when I have a guest, it'll be that sort of thing, which can't be done really in other types of TV formats. But, it's called Levin TV for a reason. So it'll be me talking about, events and current events and history and the Constitution, all these things. So from time to time we will have a guest, but we won't have a guest just to have a guest. Does that answer that pretty well?
Like, for example, if I'm in town, you might, put me on for, 3 minutes and say, all right, Hannity.
You know what I would do? No.
What?
Here's what I would do.
What would you do?
I'd have you sit down and we'd talk for 30 minutes so people would get to know you in ways that they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd sit you down, we'd talk about you a little bit. I don't mean your personal life in a provocative way. What do you do? What does your family like to do? How did you get into this business? That sort of thing, so people get to know you. Then we can talk a little bit more substance, but not the superficial stuff. And that would be the perfect kind of thing that I'm talking about. Or somebody who really is a brain or very, very interesting. Or I'll take somebody who's a leftist and very controversial and sit them down and say, okay, let's talk for 20 or 30 minutes without interruption, without 14 people trying to get in, and just have at it in a hopefully polite way.
Would you put Bill Maher on? Would you put Michael Moore on?
No, these are circus clowns. I might put on somebody from the intellectual left, or somebody who maybe is an intellectual, but somebody who is on the left, who is influential in a certain way, or that sort of thing. I don't know. My goal here is to get out of the box, not to be programmed, to drive this myself, and that's the sort of thing I would do. For instance, I would sit down with, a Jeb Bush, who I've never really cared for, talk for 30 minutes, if he'll talk for 30 minutes about certain things. But I'm not interested in just politicians. The other thing is, if you go online to LevinTV.com, look at the studio. That's my personality. We have a wall of founders and a pool table, because I like to play pool.
By the way, the set is amazing. Early on, you sent me videos of it, and I was very impressed. I mean, this is a real high-level production you're putting on.
This is cutting-edge studio technology you'll find in any major television network, cable or satellite. We put a lot of time and effort and resources into this. Same with the quality of the picture. It's HD, it's high definition, and as I say, people will be able to pull it right up on their phones if they want to, or their computers or their laptops. You can use Roku and your smart TV. We'll expand beyond that, and we're actually going to launch on March 7th, so there's no commercials, so we're not interrupted by commercials, but we have to pay for it somehow, and the way we do it is through a subscription. And I just want to say this, because, a subscription. Let me just tell folks something. This is cut to the bone. And I insisted on it being cut to the bone. Nobody's running away here with a fortune in money. It's $59 a year if you sign by March 7th. We're doing almost 200 separate independent television programs. I am. 5 nights a week. It's a lot of work, but it's something I'm going to love and I want to do, and and use it as a way for other people. Hannity, once you get off Fox, you should do this too. Seriously.
I'm in for a lot of years, my friend. But listen, I'm very proud of you. You're a dear friend to me personally, and one of my closest friends in the world. And, some people think, well, you talk show hosts are a bunch of egomaniacs and you don't like each other. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm like, I just feel like you're a national treasure, and I thank God for talk radio. Thank God that I've had my voice on the Fox News channel all these years, because I feel our country's going down the tubes, and I'm scared to death about it, and I know you are too, and I'm hoping that we get this right in this next election.
It's one of the reasons I'm doing this. You think, and we talk all the time, and I'm just Lou Avenues to press the case for the great